At some point, watching anime got more frustrating than it used to be. Not because there's less of it or because people stopped caring. If anything, it's the opposite. There's more anime than ever, and you could argue people are more devoted to it now than at any point before. And yet, watching it feels more hostile, more fragmented, and definitely more expensive. One day you're watching a season of a show you like, then you finish it and realize the next season is available, just not where you're watching it. It's on a different service, somewhere else entirely. Or you remember a show that caught your eye a few months ago, the kind you tell yourself you'll get to it eventually, only to find out that it's leaving the platform altogether. Shows disappear, movies vanish overnight, and somehow you're caught in the middle, paying for more and more services while feeling like you have access to less and less. And that frustration isn't accidental. Before we go any further, I want to be clear about what this video is and what it isn't. This isn't every detail. Think of it as a framework that helps everything else make sense. Because once you understand why anime streaming looks the way that it does right now, a lot of the confusion stops feeling random. What we're looking at isn't an anime problem, it's a platform problem. Anime didn't just grow in popularity, it became leverage. Over the last few years, streaming platforms stopped treating anime like niche content and started treating it like a systematic asset. Something that attracts loyal subscribers, keeps people paying month after month, and locks audiences in ecosystems. That shift changed everything. How licenses are negotiated, why exclusives exist, why catalogs feel unstable, and why fans are the ones absorbing the friction. So this isn't about which app is the best. It's about how anime quietly became a battlefield in a much bigger streaming war, and what that means for the people caught in the middle. To understand how we got here, you first have to look at how different platforms are playing very different games with the same medium. Once anime became valuable, it stopped being treated like a genre and started being treated like a tool. And the important thing to understand here is this: every major platform wants something different from anime. And those differences explain almost all of the chaos you're feeling as a viewer. Because anime isn't just content anymore, it's leverage. And leverage gets used differently depending on the business you're running. Some platforms use anime as a core identity. For them, anime isn't a bonus, it's the reason people subscribe in the first place. It's about depth, loyalty, and long-term retention. They want the hardcore fans, the ones who watch weekly, follow seasons, cares about subs versus dubs, and stay subscribed year-round. That means prioritizing simulcasts, exclusives, and consistency, even if the catalog isn't massive. Anime here isn't about scale. It's about commitment. Other platforms use anime as a growth hook, and here they don't need you to be an anime fan. They just need anime to make their service feel indispensable. In this model, anime sits next to prestige TV, blockbuster movies, live-action originals, all competing for your attention. The goal isn't loyalty to anime, it's to reduce churn. If a popular anime can keep you subscribed for one more month, it's done its job. If licensing it becomes inconvenient, expensive, or strategically unnecessary, it gets dropped without sentimentality. And then there are platforms that use anime as portfolio padding. Anime fills space. It signals variety. It helps justify a higher price point or a something for everyone pitch. In that model, the presence matters more than the permanence. Platform doesn't need audiences to follow shows. It just needs them to notice them. None of these approaches are inherently malicious, but they are incompatible. When multiple platforms with different incentives compete for the same pool of anime licenses, the result isn't coherence, it's fragmentation. Shows move because the strategy changed. Seasons split because contracts were negotiated separately. Libraries vanish because anime wasn't the point, it was the filler. From the platform's perspective, all of this makes sense. Licenses are evaluated quarterly, churn is measured in weeks, and content decisions are made based on leverage, not legacy. If a show no longer serves the strategy it was licensed for, there's no incentive to keep paying for it. From the viewer's perspective, it feels like whiplash. There's no visible logic tying one season to the next or 1 year to the last. What looks like random chaos is actually invisible optimization, and you're the only one seeing the side effects. Because you're not choosing between shows anymore, you're choosing between business models, whether you realize it or not. And the uncomfortable truth is this: anime didn't become harder to watch because platforms don't understand fans. It became harder to watch because platforms understand exactly how valuable fans are, and they're optimizing around that value in very different ways. Once you see that, the instability stops feeling random, but it does raise a more uncomfortable question. If anime is this strategically important now, who actually controls where it ends up? And here's the part that usually gets missed when people blame platforms for the mess. Most streaming services don't actually control anime in the way viewers assume they do. They rent access to pieces of it. They don't own it end to end. They don't decide its long-term home. And they rarely have authority to treat the show as a permanent fixture, even if it performs well. What they're really buying is temporary permission. Anime rights are fragmented at the source, split across production committees made up of publishers, studios, music labels, merch companies, and investors, all with different incentives and timelines, and no single owner with final authority. Each of those parties owns a slice. Each of those slices can be licensed separately, and none of them are obligated to prioritize viewer convenience. So when a platform gets an anime, what they're often getting is a narrow bundle of rights. A specific territory, a specific format, a specific window of time, and sometimes even a specific season. That's why a show can exist on one service and then vanish. Why a sequel ends up somewhere else, why a movie spin-off is missing, why subs and dubs don't move together, why a title exists in one country and legally vanishes in another. It's not chaos, it's contract math. And those contracts aren't built around fandom continuity. They're built around risk management. From the committee's perspective, anime isn't a unified work. It's a portfolio of monetization paths. Streaming is just one of them. Physical media, music, licensing, games, merch, international deals, future remakes, future seasons. Streaming platforms don't own that ecosystem. They're negotiating access to one layer of it for a limited time under specific conditions, which means platforms aren't just competing with each other. They're negotiating against a system that benefits from fragmentation. Because fragmented rights create leverage. If one platform wants global exclusivity, it costs more. If another wants long-term stability, it costs more. If a committee wants flexibility later, they keep the rights split now. And the moment a show becomes valuable, really valuable, the incentive shifts away from stability and towards renegotiation. That's why success doesn't guarantee permanence. Sometimes it does the opposite. A hit show isn't something you lock down forever. It's something you reprice, sometimes by breaking it apart. So when viewers ask, why wouldn't they just keep it all in one place? The answer is uncomfortable but simple. Because there's no single entity with both the authority and the incentive to do that. The platform wants retention, the committee wants optionality, the distributor wants margins, and the rights holders, well, they want future leverage. And none of those priorities align around the idea of a clean, coherent library that stays put. This is also why platforms feel inconsistent in ways that seem irrational from the outside. A service might invest heavily in simulcast but lose older seasons. It might push anime marketing hard while quietly letting licenses expire. It might split a franchise across regions or formats without explanation. That's not because no one noticed. From the outside, it feels careless, because you're the only one seeing the whole experience. It's because those decisions are often made by different teams, under different contracts, with different expiration dates, reporting to different stakeholders. What looks like a single platform to you is actually a collection of overlapping deals, all aging at different speeds. And the more anime becomes strategically valuable, the more complex this gets. More money attracts more partners means more approvals means slower decisions and shorter commitments. So fragmentation isn't just a temporary growing pain, it's a structural outcome. Anime didn't just scale up, it scaled sideways, across ownership groups, licensing bodies, and regional gatekeepers, each optimizing for their own slice of the pie. And the result is a system where nobody is incentivized to make the experience feel whole. From the outside, it feels like platforms are playing games with your access. From the inside, They're often boxed in by agreements that were never designed for long-term coherence in the first place, which leads to the quiet reality most viewers never see. The frustration you feel isn't caused by a single bad actor. It's caused by a system where control is distributed, accountability is diffused, and no one is rewarded for making things simple. And once anime became big enough to matter at that scale, coherence stopped being profitable. Once fragmentation becomes the default, it doesn't just change where anime lives. It changes how people behave around it. At first, the shift is subtle. You stop browsing and start checking. You don't discover shows so much as verify whether you're allowed to watch them. Before you even get interested, you're already asking logistical questions. Which service is this on? Is it complete? Will it still be here next season? Discovery stops being curiosity-driven and becomes risk-averse. You're no longer exploring a library. You're navigating a minefield. That's why recommendation culture around anime has changed. People don't just suggest shows anymore. They include disclaimers. It's great, but season 2's on a different platform. Watch it now before it disappears. The dub's only available if you're in the right region. Those caveats aren't about taste, they're about survivability. And over time, that trains audiences to behave differently. People stop sampling broadly and start clustering. They stick to what's already proven. They wait for full seasons instead of watching weekly. They delay engagement until a show feels safe, not artistically, but logistically. The system quietly teaches viewers to lower their expectations of continuity, which changes how stories are experienced. When seasons are split across services, long-term narrative investments become a gamble. Following a show over years now requires money, patience, and sometimes a spreadsheet. Miss a platform shift and you'll fall out of the conversation. Miss a licensing window and the story just pauses indefinitely. So people adapt. They binge instead of follow. They prioritize short-term satisfaction over long-term attachment. They treat anime less like an ongoing relationship and more like a series of temporary encounters. In a weird way, it mirrors modern dating. Fewer long-term commitments, more short-term situationships, and a shared understanding that nothing is guaranteed to last. And that adaptation has consequences, because anime as a medium is built on long arcs, on slow payoffs, on communities forming around shared anticipation. When access becomes unstable, those rhythms break. Seasonal hype replaces sustained engagement. Fandoms fragment alongside the platform. Conversations become asynchronous. Some people are caught up, others can't legally watch at all. What used to feel communal starts feeling staggered. And when the medium built on shared momentum loses that rhythm, it doesn't just lose excitement, it loses cultural gravity. And then there's trust. Not trust in the shows, but trust in the platforms. Every time a title disappears without warning, the platform teaches you a lesson. Don't get too attached. Every time a subscription no longer guarantees continuity, another lesson gets reinforced. Your access is provisional, so users respond rationally, not emotionally, not nostalgically, but defensively. They rotate subscriptions instead of committing. They hesitate before upgrading. They treat platforms as utilities, not homes. Ironically, the more platforms optimize around leverage, the less loyalty they actually generate. Because loyalty requires predictability. And predictability is exactly what fragmented systems erode. This is where the idea of choice starts to fall apart. On paper, viewers have more choice than ever. More services, more titles, more simultaneous releases. But in practice, choice is constrained by contracts you never see. You can choose what to watch, but not where it stays. You can choose when to start, but not whether it will still be there. You can choose which platform to pay, but not which one will hold the full story. That's not freedom, that's conditional access. And the condition is constant vigilance. The system asks viewers to do more work than ever before. Track availability, manage subscriptions, monitoring expirations, adjusting expectations. All while being told this is the golden age of content. So frustration builds, not just as outrage, but as fatigue. People don't rage quit anime. They quietly disengage. They watch less, they talk less, they wait more, and they default to what's easiest instead of what's interesting. Which means the system doesn't just fragment libraries, it narrows behavior. It rewards platforms that reduce friction, even if they reduce ambition. It pushes viewers towards whatever feels stable in the moment, not what's meaningful over time. It trains audiences to accept impermanence as normal. And once that mindset sets in, something fundamental shifts. Anime stops feeling like a shared cultural space. It starts feeling like a series of rentals you're lucky to catch. Not because fans changed, but because the structure taught them to. This is the quiet cost of treating access as leverage instead of responsibility. The system doesn't collapse under its own weight. It teaches everyone, platforms and viewers alike, to expect less. And once expectations drop far enough, the real question isn't why anime feels harder to watch. It's why anyone still expects the experience to feel whole, when the system was never designed to preserve wholeness in the first place. Once access becomes provisional, consumption stops being about connection and starts being about extraction. You're no longer entering a story with the assumption that it will stay with you. You're approaching it with the quiet clock in the back of your mind, not always consciously, but persistently. How long is this available? How much effort is this worth right now? Is this something to sit with or something to get through before it disappears? That mindset changes what anime is, even when shows themselves haven't changed. In an unstable environment, value shifts. Depth matters less than immediacy. Completion matters more than continuity. A show that delivers fast payoff feels safer than one that asks for patience. Long arcs become liabilities. Subtlety becomes optional. Emotional investments start to feel risky, not because the story can't earn it, but because the system might not honor it. So people adapt again. They gravitate toward anime that can be appreciated in isolation, towards seasons that feel self-contained, towards experiences that don't punish you for stepping away. Not because those stories are better, but because they're compatible with uncertainty. And over time, that compatibility becomes preference. This is how provisional access reshapes taste without anyone noticing. It doesn't censor content or dictate themes. It quietly rewards certain kinds of engagement and discourages others. It nudges audience towards anime that feel disposable, not in quality, but in commitment. Something you can enjoy fully without needing to trust the future. That has cultural consequences. Anime didn't grow globally because it was easy. It grew because people shared long-running stories, debated slow burn arcs, and stayed invested across years. That shared persistence is what turned individual shows into reference points, and reference points into culture. But culture requires overlap. It requires people moving through stories together at roughly the same pace, with the assumption that tomorrow will still include what today introduced. Provisional access breaks that assumption. When everyone is watching on different schedules, on different platforms, under different constraints, shared meaning thins out. Conversation becomes fragmented, references stop landing, the sense of we're all here for this weakens. Not dramatically, just gradually enough that it's hard to point to a single moment where it was all lost. And in that environment, anime doesn't disappear, it just changes roles. It becomes something you sample instead of something you belong to. Something you fit into gaps rather than organize time around. Something that competes for attention rather than anchor it, which raises an uncomfortable tension. A medium built on long-form storytelling now lives inside a system optimized for short-term presence. That doesn't mean great anime can't exist here. It means the conditions that once amplified its impact are no longer guaranteed. Meaning still happens, but it's increasingly private, increasingly isolated, increasingly detached from any shared rhythm. And when that meaning stops being shared, it stops accumulating. The real loss isn't convenience. It isn't money. It isn't even access. It's the slow erosion of expectation, the quiet acceptance that stories don't need to last, that experiences don't need to connect, and that investment doesn't need to be rewarded beyond the moment it's consumed. Not because viewers decided that's what they wanted, but because the system taught them that wanting more was inefficient. And once that lesson sinks in, anime doesn't feel worse because it failed. It feels worse because everyone learned to meet it halfway and stop there. If this way of looking at things made something quietly click, you're not alone. And that's usually where the real conversation starts. You're welcome to sit with it, or add your own perspective below if you notice the same shift from a different angle.